You know that feeling when you walk into a high-end luxury boutique, like Chanel? It just hits you, right? That overwhelming sense of effortless perfection. Everything is pristine, completely minimal, and perfectly calm. Well, in today's Explainer, we're literally peeling back that luxurious facade. We're going to dive right into the intense, highly technical engineering that's hiding underneath it all, deconstructing the exact structural blueprints that pull off this incredible illusion of simplicity.
Which really begs the question, what does true luxury actually look like on paper? Because sure, your eyes are seeing these sleek lines and wide, breathable spaces, but the architectural reality? It's a dense, highly coordinated web of math, materials, and incredibly strict constraints. So buckle up because we're about to totally challenge everything you think you know about how high-end aesthetics are built.
Okay, let's dive into this. At first glance, a floor and mezzanine plan like this looks kind of chaotic, doesn't it? It's just this incredibly dense grid of lines, labels, technical measurements, the whole shebang. But here's the thing. This is the exact DNA of that sleek minimalism you experience as a consumer. Literally every single square centimeter is mapped out way before a single piece of marble or glass is ever placed. It's an absolutely stunning contrast, really. The visual piece of the final store versus the uncompromising rigor of the blueprint that creates it.
To break this all down, our structural blueprint for this explainer covers 5 key areas: blueprinting the Chanel experience, spatial flow and partitions, concealing the structural systems, engineering the island counter, and finally, the precision of the display.
Starting right off with parts 1 and 2, blueprinting the Chanel experience and spatial flow and partitions.
So when you think of Chanel, this is probably what pops into your head, right? That iconic, unmistakable luxury aesthetic. Clean, bold, and feeling entirely natural. But here's the central paradox we're exploring. It takes a monumental amount of hard work to look this effortless. That incredible sense of space and freedom you feel when you walk through those boutique doors, yeah, that's not a happy accident. It's a heavily calculated architectural decision.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. If we look closely at the floor plan, you see these millimeter-exact designations. We've got walls strategically labeled W1 through W7 and partitions marked P1 all the way down to P18. And listen, these aren't just, room dividers thrown in at the last minute. Oh no. They are psychological barriers and pathways, engineered to map out exactly where you walk, where you naturally pause, and what catches your eye first. Every single turn you take is drafted right here.
Moving on to Section 3. Concealing the structural systems.
Now, looking at the technical index for the space, you very quickly realize just how much is going on above your head, completely out of sight. We're talking about a massive, heavily coordinated infrastructure. You've got multiple layers of ceiling lights, CFL, spot, and pendant fixtures, all running right alongside these really complex electrical grids. Then throw in the entire HVAC system for perfect climate control, firefighting mechanisms, security cameras, and the craziest part, all of this heavy machinery is perfectly integrated and tucked away into a beautifully coordinated gypsum false ceiling using acoustic panels. Honestly, it builds a real sense of awe when you grasp the sheer volume of engineering that is flawlessly hidden from view.
So the takeaway here is that these invisible engines of luxury are what actually create the premium experience. I mean, true luxury is feeling the comfort of a perfectly temperature-controlled room, illuminated by flawlessly balanced lighting, and never once seeing an ugly air duct, an exposed wire, or some intrusive sprinkler head. The engineering does its heavy lifting and then completely, magically erases itself visually.
All right, bringing it back down to the floor for Section 4, engineering the island counter. You'd be forgiven for thinking a display table is just a table, but an island counter display in this specific environment, it's a freestanding retail centerpiece, mathematically engineered using exact centimeter constraints. It's not just standard furniture you buy off a lot. It's a highly specific, calculated structure. The source drawings explicitly note that for this particular piece, all measurements are drafted strictly in centimeters to guarantee it fits flawlessly, and I mean flawlessly, into that exact grid system we saw mapped out earlier. Finally, Section 5, precision of the display. Now, what's really interesting here is that you might think a clothes rack is just a metal bar on a couple of stands, right? Not in a Chanel boutique. Look at the absolute architectural seriousness applied to this single piece of furniture. It requires a front elevation, a side elevation, and a full top-down plan view, just to hang a jacket.
And pay attention to the rigorous dimensional constraints being applied. The technical notes specify this rack is engineered in exact feet and inches. We're seeing dimensions dialed in down to tiny fractions, like 6 feet 10 and 5/8 inches wide and 6 feet 8.5 inches tall. These aren't suggestions. These constraints are absolutely mandatory. The rack has to perfectly frame a high-end garment. If it's even slightly too tall, too wide, or visually clunky, it becomes a distraction. It pulls your eye away from the luxury clothing it's meant to hold, and we just can't have that.
Let's move in and see how this actually builds out. Check out the structural details, specifically those angled supports at the base and the top. You're looking at engineering designed for total, unyielding stability. It utilizes highly specific base dimensions to ensure it bears weight without sagging or wobbling even a millimeter. It basically makes this seemingly delicate little rack as structurally sound as a miniature bridge. It performs a heavy-duty function while remaining virtually invisible to the shopper.
Which ultimately brings our whole narrative full circle. All of this rigorous math, the complicated floor grids, the cleverly concealed ceiling layouts, the incredibly specific fractional inches on a simple clothes rack, it all serves one singular, unwavering purpose: supporting the flawless aesthetic standard of the brand. It is a literal orchestra of technical skill, playing entirely behind the scenes.
And that leads to a really powerful core thesis we can draw from these documents. Structural rigor creates the illusion of effortless ease. When true perfection is achieved in retail design, it feels entirely natural to you, the consumer, walking through the space. But as we've uncovered in this explainer, that natural feeling? Yeah, it's the direct result of obsessive, hidden, highly technical decisions.
Which leads us with something really fascinating to ponder as we wrap up today. Based on the technical blueprints we just explored together, is true luxury defined by what you see, or is it actually defined by everything you don't see? So, next time you walk into a flawlessly designed high-end space, take a second. Look at the layout, glance up at the ceiling, inspect the display racks. Remember the invisible math holding that entire illusion together. Keep asking questions and never stop looking at what lies just beneath the surface.